I want to ask you guys a question. When you hear the name Bugatti, what do you see? Introduced to most of us with the release of the Veyron in September of 2005 and solidified into pop culture by Ace Hood, very few car companies have been able to capture the imagination of both car enthusiasts and the general public the way that Bugatti has. And this is all while remaining on the pedestal that frankly we all built for them. Now that was until September of 2025 when Forex trader and Miami-based influencer FX Alex G decided to introduce his Chiron Pur Sport to the rear end of a 1996 Suzuki K-Truck. Now this is bad, obviously, but believe it or not, this crash would kick off a series of events that would start to erode the seemingly untouchable status that Bugatti has cultivated and maintained over the past 20 years. So the question is, how does a pretty straightforward traffic accident end up crumbling the foundation of a multi-billion-dollar automotive icon? Let's take a closer look and find out. Alright, so let's flash back over a century to Molsheim, Alsace, formerly of the German Empire, now modern-day France. Italian-born industrial designer Ettore Bugatti has just returned to his car factory after being sent away to Milan during the First World War. Now, founded in 1909, Bugatti built a strong reputation of an extreme level of engineering detail and an unmatched artistic execution. And it kind of made sense, since his dad, Carlo Bugatti, was already a well-known furniture and jewelry designer. So as the Treaty of Versailles is being signed and Molsheim is being transferred from German to French control after World War I, Ettore gets a last-minute exhibition spot at the 15th Paris Motor Show. Here he shows off 3 of his vehicle designs, the Type 13, the Type 22, and the Type 23. Now, at its core, the Type 22 and 23 were essentially the same as the Type 13. It was just a slightly larger wheelbase. But, you know, Ettore is just trying to make something happen here, so, I mean, I can respect the hustle. I can also respect the incredible racing pedigree that they built up afterward, as they won the first ever Monaco Grand Prix in 1929 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans twice, with Robert Benoit in 1937 and again in 1939 with Pierre Veyron. Now, I wonder if that Veyron win meant a lot to him. It's kind of hard to say. He was only a French war hero in World War II and received their highest award for service in 1945. So, you know, seems like a pretty good guy to name a car after. Now, unfortunately, the war left Bugatti and the Molsheim factory both in ruins. At the start of the war, Ettore's only son, Jean Bugatti, was killed during a car testing accident near their home base. So Jean's death essentially meant there was no one to take over the mantle after Ettore was gone. So when Ettore unfortunately died in 1947, it wasn't long before the original Bugatti died with him. So in 1952, Bugatti's first edition closes its doors for good. But that's not the end for the brand. Far from it. In fact, in 1987, a man named Romano Artioli bought the rights to the brand and the name, and then built a brand new factory in Modena, Italy, revealing the first revival of the brand, the Bugatti EB110. Now, with a 3.5-liter quad turbo V12 initially pushing out around 553 horsepower, this absolute beauty was far beyond her time. Featuring a carbon fiber chassis, a 6-speed manual, and 4-wheel drive, it was such a special car that F1 legend Michael Schumacher actually got one for himself. Now, unfortunately, he ended up crashing it, but that's neither here nor there. So, sadly, this car hasn't been remembered as well as the Ferraris and Lamborghinis of the era, but that really wasn't even its own fault. So by the time the EB110 had made it to the general market, the North American and European economies were both in the middle of a recession. And that recession would not only destroy Bugatti's sales, but also the brand itself, as they would sadly cease operations in September of 1995. Now, the Bugatti that we know and kinda love came back around in 1998 when Volkswagen Group acquired the brand. These are the guys that revived the original factory in Molsheim and gave us the Bugatti that we know and love with the Veyron, Chiron, and now the Tourbillon. Now, to recap, there have been 3 distinct eras of the Bugatti brand. There's been the original years with Ettore, there's been the short-lived Italian revival that gave us the EB110, and then now we have the current Volkswagen-owned era of Bugatti. And let me tell you, the Volkswagen era has been extremely kind to Bugatti because they did an outstanding job of returning Bugatti to its original relevance. With the Veyron's first edition securing a top speed of 253 miles per hour, there haven't been many cars that have captured the imagination quite like this one has. It was the first car to ever break the $1 million MSRP ceiling and one of the first to successfully create an engine that could reliably put out 1,000 horsepower. It also had 10 radiators, 16 cylinders, and drained its full gas tank in less than 12 seconds at top top speed, which is just fucking crazy when you think about it. But more than the power numbers and the price tag, it was really the maintenance costs that captured our imagination. Basic service appointments could cost as much as a very nice motorcycle, and the hourly rates of Bugatti service technicians started at $400, which, you know, is insane enough. But that's the bottom, because the top level is $1,300 per hour. They are living good. Now keep in mind, that has nothing to do with parts, that's just labor. That's the specialized tires they had cost $25,000 per set if you could find them, and getting them fitted to your car at the Molsheim factory would set you back 70 grand. And yeah, it was a ridiculous price to even think about, but it was the Bugatti aura that no one could argue with. You know, you want the best, you're gonna pay for it. The Veyron was truly the first hypercar and genuinely defined a category that we still argue about and debate to this day. So yeah, an oil change costs 5 grand. I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a Bugatti. There are a ton of other crazy facts about Bugatti ownership, and if you're interested in learning a bit more about what it actually costs to own one of these and drive it, I highly suggest checking out Tyler Hoover of Hoovie's Garage and Ed Bolian of VinWiki, because I have learned a ton from them over the years, and I respect both of them a lot. Now, as the Veyron reached the end of its production lifecycle in 2015, the new successor was right around the corner. In March 2016 at the Geneva Motor Show, Bugatti gave us the Chiron, and it was still with the W16 that we absolutely cannot get enough of, but this time it was updated a little bit, initially pushing out 1,479 horsepower in the early models and 1,500 plus on the Super Sport editions. This car would eventually go on to hit 304.7 miles per hour in Germany on August 2nd, 2019. So there's no doubt that the Chiron was something special. In fact, the first 200 sold long before they even made it to the public market. And the special editions still hold a cult-like fascination, justifiably so. There's not many of them. They still maintained the lineage of the Bugatti name incredibly well, but something was a little bit different, and especially when you compare it to the era of the Veyron. In the 10 years since the debut of the Veyron, the hypercar market had transformed in a way that no one could have seen coming. Originally, the market was just Bugatti, some high-level Ferraris like the FXX, and then the McLaren F1. But now, as the 2000s progressed, so did the competition, and we saw brands like Pagani, Koenigsegg, McLaren, Ferrari, and Porsche all catch up in the hypercar race. Suddenly, there were a ton of other brands all vying for your same $2, $3, or sometimes $5 million asking price. And though the Chiron was widely regarded for its reliability, mechanical quality, and consistency, they weren't the only ones at the top of the summit anymore. And at the end of the day, the Chiron was amazing, but it wasn't like the Veyron, and people were less inclined to be taken for a ride on those ridiculous ownership costs. There was also something really odd that happened in the middle of the Chiron's run. Let me tell you what I mean. So in 2021, Porsche leadership decides to create this joint venture called Bugatti Rimac, which is merging Bugatti with this other company called Rimac. Now, you might remember them from their incredible looking but terribly selling car, the Rimac Nevera. Now, in this very weird deal, Porsche essentially decided that two brands would merge together and give Mate Rimac, the CEO of Rimac at the time, control of the Bugatti legacy, as the company decides to move towards hybrid tech, while they, Porsche, would retain 45% control of the venture and more shares in Rimac's technology. Now, this is when the brand first starts to show its signs of strain, which is very weird because the true chaos begins when that crash that we mentioned earlier happens. So let's start with our character number one, FX Alex G. So for those of you who aren't familiar, FX Alex G is a finance and trading influencer who's got a few dollars and a whole lot of incredible cars that get treated pretty questionably, I think we'd all say. But Alex has this beautiful Bugatti Persport, and he's driving it down the street in Miami, you know, and according to his side of the story, he was driving to pass in a low-speed area and crashes right into the back of a 1996 Suzuki K-Truck. Now, that crash would do over $1.7 million in damage, tears a massive chunk out of the car, and leaves it looking like Darth Vader at the end of episode 6. Now, I'm not getting into the irony of a tiny-ass car like that doing this much damage to a $4+ million hypercar, or how much we can or cannot trust the narrator's version of events. All I'm here to say is that it might not seem like it, but this was the first domino that fell for Bugatti. So when the flex to end all flexes, Alex decides to buy back the Bugatti from insurance and partner with YouTube rebuild legend Matt Armstrong to try and put it back together themselves. This, of course, immediately pisses off Bugatti and Mate Rimac. And so that $1.7 million repair quote that we were talking about, turns out that was from Bugatti. That was their market rate for putting their own car back on the road. To their credit, Bugatti would eventually come back to the negotiating table with a revised, more budget-friendly amount of only $700,000 $900,000. Yes, I am being sarcastic if that wasn't clear.
And I mean, if you thought Bugatti was mad, Alex and Matt really did not take that decision well. Here's everything that they did to undercut Bugatti. First, they got their friend Bob from Bob's Machine Shop, great channel by the way if you have some time to check it out, to custom weld a connecting piece for the transmission as well as multiple radiator brackets for the car. Now, keep in mind, it has 10 radiators, so Bob had his work cut out for him. They also used the passenger airbag from an Audi A3 to replace the blown ones, which was not controversial whatsoever, certainly wasn't a point of discussion. They also used the wheels from a Rubbermaid trash can to hold up the chassis while splitting it in half, and then used it again to put it back together. They also flew to a private undisclosed location somewhere in Eastern Europe, I believe, for a pair of used Chiron headlights from a secret buyer. Nothing weird about that for sure. And then they secured new body panels from Venom, which certainly didn't have any talking points associated with it at all.
The fact of the matter was, by not using Bugatti-approved methods to put this thing back together, these YouTubers had ended up slighting Zeus, and Olympus was pretty mad about it. As a result, Bugatti decides to blacklist the car and bans Matt and Alex from being able to acquire the necessary parts to rebuild the Chiron Perspor themselves. It certainly didn't help that Alex G got a whole lot of enjoyment and content out of directly antagonizing Bugatti and Mate. Definitely not the approach that I would necessarily take, but at the same time, I understand the content world enough to say that that's kind of an endless well to draw from. Now, I wish that was the only incident that we could point to, but unfortunately, this wasn't the last time Bugatti would make life difficult for a content creator. Matt Armstrong later went on to purchase his own broken Bugatti Veyron, and when reaching out to Bugatti to try and get the necessary parts that he needed to be able to fix the damn thing, Bugatti completely stonewalled him, and he was forced to do it on his own, figuring out that a fuse was busted, and he had to just fix it his own way.
They also refused to sell Matt the iconic Bugatti Veyron speed key, which was missing at the time of purchasing. Now, that in and of itself isn't surprising. Many used Bugatti owners have had the same problem, including Ed Bullion of VinWiki. But when Matt went to go find how much it would cost to get the speed key replaced, early estimates were in the $7,000 to $10,000 range. So instead, Matt decides to call up his buddy, Dips, a regular character of the Matt Armstrong cinematic universe, to create a functional speed key, but using an old Volkswagen fob. And guess what? It worked perfectly. So all that is to say, 7 to 10K my ass.
In fact, Bugatti said the only way that they would even touch it is if it was done and finished and paid for at a pre-approved Bugatti service center. And the same was true for another YouTuber named Mark McCann when he bought his Mansory edition, Vey and Ron, for $900,000. He even went to a approved service center to try and pay them to fix the well-documented transmission issue. And you know what they did? They stopped picking up his calls. Now, the good news is that eventually he was able to fix his Frankenstein Vey and Ron thanks to the help of an independent service center named Furlonger. And now we've seen the Mansory Veyron fully rebuilt despite Bugatti and Rimat's best efforts. Let me be clear, Rimat, the man, is a brilliant dude and a genuine car guy. If you've ever read a little bit about his story and his passion for engineering, it's an incredible one, and I'm genuinely a fan. But what's odd about him is that despite his history of working on cars in his own garage and, you know, scraping parts together just to finish projects, he doesn't extend that same courtesy to the people who want to work on their own Bugattis. These lowly YouTubers have proved that it's possible to piece together one of the car world's most iconic vehicles without manufacturer assistance, just teamwork and grit. And that's what this is all about at the end of the day. Gathering people around a central mission, even when the task seems impossible, and especially when it's all stacked against you. And that's what has shattered the untouchable status that this brand has traditionally occupied. At the end of the day, whether it's a Bugatti or a BMW, we should have the right to repair the cars that we own. And it might not seem like it immediately, but this perfect storm of both content and ingenuity from Matt, Mark, and even Alex became the perfect Bugatti Bermuda Triangle. And so up to this point, they could easily justify their costs and craftsmanship based strictly off their history alone. But by challenging these guys and being proven wrong in such a public and embarrassing fashion, suddenly they don't seem as bulletproof anymore. And below the surface, something is definitely happening. I don't know what it is, but considering that Porsche just completely cut ties with Rimac and sold their stake to a venture capital fund based in New York City, something definitely feels off. So if this is your first time on the channel, guys, I'm so glad that you are here. This is a bit of a new take for us. We are still getting our feet under us, developing this channel, but we're growing together as a team, and I can't thank you guys enough for being here as part of the journey. If this is your first time, please hit the like and subscribe button, because we are trying to grow this channel to a point where we can take you guys to some pretty crazy places. I've made some good friends over the years, and I'm really excited to share them all with you. But what do you guys think about Bugatti? Do you think this is actually actually them falling apart, or is this just, you know, the ramblings of some moron as he drives around the street? I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think Bugatti's actually in trouble? What do you think about the Tourbillon? Do you think that's actually a car that's going to be able to keep up the lineage and revive the brand back to its original status we saw with the Veyron? Or is this going to be the end of the Bugatti era as other hypercars like Pagani, Apollo, Zenvo, all these amazing manufacturers start to take market share away from these guys? I guess only time is going to tell, but until we do find out, we're going to discover it together. So once again, if you guys don't mind, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for all your time. I am so glad that you guys are here. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Woo!